Does this sound like you? You're washing dishes and the greatest song idea ever pops into your head. So you grab a pen and paper and you run to your instrument. You write a killer chorus and then you start piecing together the verse. It's like the song is flowing through you. But then as you come to the second verse, you start to second guess the rhyme scheme. You look back and think, man, is this chorus actually any good? By the time you get to the bridge, you've completely lost steam and you can't even find a good chord progression. Frustrated, you set down your pen and pad, telling yourself you'll come back to it later. You're just gonna play video games for a while until you get more inspiration. But you never do come back to that song, do you? Instead, it just ends up thrown into a pile with the rest of the half-finished songs filling up your notebook. Sucks, doesn't it?
I'm a failure.
Well, in this video, I'm gonna break down the 3 things holding you back from finishing your songs, show you how to overcome them, and give you the exact steps that you need to take to start finishing more songs today. So back when I was in my early 20s, I was living in Toronto and I was trying to write music that would change the world, which is ridiculous. And obviously didn't happen, but I was convinced that it was going to. Anyway, I had envisioned this giant, larger-than-life theatrical story about insanity and what it means to be human, and I needed it to be perfect. It needed to be the greatest piece of music ever made. Of course, because I set such high expectations on myself, and I hadn't really figured out the keys to actually writing songs, I was just doing what I thought songs should sound like, I would constantly get stopped up at things like bridges, or making sure that the verses made sense and actually helped with the story, and I would throw a lot of things away because for the most part none of it felt right. In fact, all of the songs from that project are unfinished and were never released and mostly just have 1.5 verses and a chorus and then a weird bridge section that doesn't really relate to the rest of the song in any way. Because I had this expectation that songs had to be designed in a certain way. Intro, verse, chorus, riff, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end. But here's the dirty truth. There is literally no rules or regulations in terms of how songs should be organized. It's definitely helpful to have like a memorable chorus or tag that you keep coming back to, and repeating things is a very helpful tool, but you don't need a bridge. If you get to the section where you think a bridge should go and you're like,
I'm not sure what I should write here,
it doesn't need a bridge at all. If you have to force it, it doesn't belong in the song.
I don't like you.
And you'd think that after learning this 15 years ago, it would have stuck and I wouldn't have fallen to this same trap over and over and over again through my career. But in 2015, when my horror punk band broke up and I decided I was gonna go solo, I decided I was gonna really start experimenting with music and try a bunch of different things because I was really painted into a corner creatively. Because I mean, there's only so much you can really sing and talk about in terms of horror movies, right? And in doing so, I was able to experiment and learn a lot about myself as a creative and as a musician. And I spent a bunch of time trying to write songs that I thought needed to sound a certain way because I was trying to replicate other artists that had made songs that I enjoyed in different genres, but in my own way. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what would make a song sound right. And you can go listen to all of those songs and they don't have a lot of streams or anything like that because, well, I think some of them are not very good, but I like to learn with an audience, so I put it all out there anyway. But there was one song that I wrote and it felt very personal and it was like uncomfortable for me to write because it was one of the first songs I ever like intentionally wrote about my mental health. I put it out and then I didn't promote it. I didn't want to talk about it. It felt weird because it was too personal. Ironically, that is my girlfriend's favorite of my songs, basically. And it's because it was emotional. It was real. It was very raw. Songs are a drug, whether we like it or not. They're an emotional drug that can give you a release. They can bring you up, they can bring you down, they can make you feel for 1 second like maybe you're not so alone. And if you're writing a song like that and you find that you're now trying to fit in a bridge section because like, there's gotta be a bridge section, right?
Okay, well, what's the 3rd chord of the root for this one that I can modulate up to so that it's like a key change?
You're starting to think with your head and you've lost the emotional center of your song and you should probably just scrap that right away and just put another chorus and call it a day. If it doesn't align to the emotional center of your song, get rid of it.
If you feel like time is working against you and you just don't know what to do next in your music career, then we can do a one-on-one call where I can try to help guide you on your unique music journey. Just check the link down below.
feelings!
after releasing that song about my mental health, it actually became a lot easier to write other songs about my mental health, which I had been doing, I just hadn't been actively doing at that point. I was like hiding behind metaphors and stuff like that. So then I wrote this cool song called When Will I Feel Okay? But it was during that time when things were a little crazy in the world, you know what I'm talking about, and everyone was online more than they typically are. And I had joined a community of other guitar players where we would just like throw around guitar riffs to one another, and doing so inspired me to try to write a really cool riffy song with a lot of really intricate riffs, and I'd push myself to write the coolest bunch of riffs, and I'd make like a really dope song. It was like really technical, you know what I mean? It would hopefully impress all those other guitar players at how fucking good of a guitar player that I actually am. And they'd be like,
Bro, you're a fucking sick guitar player.
well, that never happened. Sure, the people that I shared the song with were like, yeah, it's cool riffs, man. But the song kind of ends up being like a riff salad. Bunch of random riffs all kind of tied together, except for the chorus section, where I did try to express a more raw approach to how my mental health was feeling at the time. Ironically, that's the only part of the song that anybody ever mentions is good, and it's not at how cool the guitar riff is behind the lyrics, it's about how the lyrics emotionally resonate with people. People can relate to how I was feeling and the words that I used to express how I was feeling. If you think you're gonna impress other musicians with how good you are at sweep arpeggios or that cool tapping riff, I'm gonna tell you right now that you can't impress musicians. They're just gonna hate you because you're better than them. So just try to write a cool song that emotionally resonates with people. And even though listening to those things that I just told you will help you finish more songs, there are 3 mistakes about creating music that, if you're making them, means that you'll never get the best sounding music that you can. So watch this video next where I break down all 3 and show you how to fix them.